So my name's Dara Silverman. As I said a few minutes ago, I'm a teacher with Strozzi and also a coach, and I do racial justice work here in the United States, both in partnership with Black and Indigenous and people of color trainers and consultants. And then also I work with other white people and do a lot of work with white people to name where racism and white supremacy is showing up. Just want to acknowledge in this moment, we like to speak to the conditions of the moment. And for people in the United States, you might have seen that a number of legislators in the state of Texas left the state last night to keep a bunch of bad laws from being passed to protect voting rights and to protect trans youth. So I think as we enter into this conversation about consent and boundaries, it's really useful to notice where are the examples in the world around us where folks are setting a boundary of this behavior is not acceptable. So the Strozzi Institute is based in California, but especially in the past year, we've been starting to do more work online. So we offer courses online and in person that are really about embodiment. How do we drop in and start to feel more in ourselves, to discern for ourselves what our yeses and our nos and our maybes are, and then to be able to move towards our longings, towards what we care about and not just the things that we've always done. So welcome everyone who's here. It's great to be with you. One thing that I want to say before we move into some practice is just that over this next hour, what we're going to do is be in a mixture. So we'll do some practice together. There'll be some time to reflect and ask some questions. And then there'll also be an opportunity for a couple of people to get coached in front of the room. So welcome to all the folks who are introducing themselves. I'm going to drop in the chat if there are any questions that you're bringing today, since we're focusing today on consent and boundaries. If you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. And I love some of the questions that are here already. Can you tell by people's physique that they may have challenges in setting their boundaries? Oh, that's a really good question. You know, we all hold our bodies in different ways, and there are some things that a lot of us do where we might have some challenges to holding boundaries. One thing that I'll say is, for me as someone who is both a teacher but also a learner, there are a couple of people I've been learning a lot from about boundaries and consent, both within the Strozzi Institute and then the embodiment teachers in the world. So I want to name particularly Prentice Hemphill, who has a podcast called Finding Our Way, and Adrienne Mari Brown, who is a teacher and a writer. Has a new book out called Holding Change, which is about facilitation and holding conflict in groups, particularly social justice groups. Great. So with that, let's move into some practice. We do opening practices so we can drop in a little more to the soma, to the body. So you can stay seated or you can stand. You can stay on video or go off, whatever feels right for you. To be able to drop in a little more. I'm gonna be here standing because I'm standing at a desk, but do what you do just as we start to come into the life of your body. So you could try rolling your shoulders. Maybe taking a deeper breath or deeper exhale than you've taken before. And I love seeing the range. Sarah's wearing her winter coat, and then we have people in tank tops. So it's great to know we can all be in these practices together. So maybe doing a little wiggle. You could turn your head from side to side. Yeah, doing what you do to start to feel movement, start to feel the life of the body. Yeah, and I love seeing all the different movements folks are doing. Then your next couple breaths, maybe coming to some form of stillness, either seated or standing, bringing a hand to your belly and just feel yourself right beneath that hand. Feel where your hand meets your belly and where your belly meets your hand. And drop your attention down right beneath this hand. So moving from maybe higher up in the head or the heart down to the belly. So letting your attention drop to center, and then you can keep your hand there or you can let that hand go. If you're standing, bending your knees a little bit, we don't want to lock out the legs. And if you're seated, dropping your weight down into the chair. We center to get present and open and connected with ourselves and with each other and with what we care about. So let's center in length, dropping your weight down into the lower half of your body. Feel or imagine or sense into your legs. You might be able to feel the chair meeting your legs. You might feel the floor coming up against your feet, but just doing what you do to get a little heavier, letting gravity take over. And as you're dropping your weight down into your legs, starting to extend up, getting a little bit taller, getting a little space between the vertebra and your back. So can you both settle down and take a couple breaths settling down and extend up into your full height. Our length is our dignity. So what's possible when you come up into your full length, your full dignity? And if you want to try, you could stretch one arm up, just feeling a little more length. Feel what's possible when you do that. Maybe stretch the other arm up, drop the first arm. You can do this with your arms or do it energetically, just feeling like, oh, how tall can I get? And then as you let your arms come down, can you add a little bit of that length from that stretch up into your spine? Let's keep all that length and then add on centering and width. So you're wiggling a little bit from side to side. If you're in a chair on your seat, you can shift from side to side, feeling for the edges of your body. If you want to, you could stretch your arms out, reaching between the hands, feeling the broadness at the front of your chest, maybe behind your heart. And taking a big exhale, letting your arms release down in the next few breaths. But can you keep moving out towards the edges? Almost like from the center line, there's a softening or a relaxing out. Yeah, good. Yawning is good in moments like this. And feeling for, you can imagine, who are one or two people in your life who you're connected to, who you're in relationship with. And can you feel them on either side of you? Almost like they're standing next to you. Maybe it's the cat who's coming to be in practice with you. Maybe it's the person, but just feeling one or two people. And can you release your shoulders, maybe another inch down, just to feel for that being. And as you do that, we center with our eyes open, because most of the time in life, we don't get to shut our eyes to center. So if your eyes are closed, try opening them up and softening out to the edges, like you can see through the corners of your eyes, through the outside edges, letting your eye bands soften. Feeling for the connection to me, this voice, to another body on the screen, to that cat who's walking by, letting yourself feel for another living being. And then keeping all that width, let's center in depth. So you can rock forward in your seat or on your feet, rock back, rocking forward and back, and just find the spot right in the middle where you're balanced from back to front, front to back. And feel for the ancestors, all the people who came before us, people who you might know, people you might not know. But it's almost like you could imagine their hands against your back and that you could rest back into them. Yeah, and as you do that, is there anything you could let go of that's holding your jaw, your breath, seeing what you can rest back into just to feel a little more in the back body. Nice, feeling the shoulders, feeling the lower back, feeling for that connection to some of your history, to some lineage of blood and bone or chosen ancestors. And then as you keep feeling for your back body, start to move your attention through your legs and your heart and your guts. Yeah, and if there's some movement that comes with that, that's great. And coming out to the front of your body, letting your eyes relax, soft gaze out towards that future, feeling for the clothing on your shoulders, feeling for this next hour together, this next month, next year. And maybe if you have children in your life, imagining all the years for them to come, not just your life, but their lives. And then feel yourself in this moment, right between that future and that past. Maybe dropping a little more weight down, a little more out as you feel for that depth. And then let's center in purpose, bringing a hand back to your belly, maybe one to your heart, and just feeling for yourself. If you have a commitment, you can speak it. If you have something that you say that reminds you, what gets you out of bed in the morning? What keeps you up at night? Speaking that to yourself. Letting that image, those words shape you. Letting your hands go and coming back to the group. Just taking a minute here to drop a word or two for your mood in the chat. Sober, drained, light, joyful, grounded, complacent, longing, slightly anxious. So letting all those emotions wash over you. There may be some people aren't even putting in the chat. But we want to create a space where we're not only feeling one thing, but where we're acknowledging what it is that we are feeling, where we can feel all the different emotions and notice them and acknowledge them as we're moving forward. Yeah. Thanks for putting all those in. The podcast that I mentioned was Finding Our Way by Prentice Hemphill. And then the other person that I mentioned is Adrienne Maury Brown, who does have a podcast called the Emergent Strategy Podcast. So just want to reference both of those if you want to check those out. So this session, we are focusing on consent and boundaries. And thanks to all the folks who put questions earlier on in the chat. We'll try to get to some of them. We probably won't be able to get to all of them. So we're going to start with consent. And the definition of consent that I want to share with you all is our embodied ability to do three things: to be self-responsive. How can we be responsive to ourselves, to what's happening for us, to be able to assess situations, and then to hold what you and others care about, the ability to choose. So for those of you who have been in somatics or have been to these leadership dojos, then you know that we think a lot about our automatic responses under pressure. right? That we all have these automatic responses, our conditioned tendencies, and that we come by those honestly and they're embodied. And so with consent, what we're really looking to do is how can we hold what we and others care about and be in choice and not just respond to what it is that is happening. Yeah, so I'm going to drop those 3 things in the chat so that people can see that if you like. Consent is the embodied ability to be self-responsive, to assess situations, and then to hold what you and other people care about. So it's the ability to be in choice and not just to act out of those conditioned tendencies, those automatic responses under pressure. And thank you, Bree. Yes, Adrienne Maree Brown has many podcasts and a new novel coming out. So thank you. I was very focused on emergent strategy, but there are a wealth of podcast offers. So, what we're going to practice today is what does it mean to start to discern within ourselves, within our bodies, what consent feels like. And so we're going to practice 3 different responses, a yes, a no, and a maybe. And you can do these seated or standing, but what I'm going to do is show them to you. And we're going to practice them all together in just a minute. But first I want to get a sense of, for you, what is something that you struggle to say yes to in your life? And if you can just drop that in the chat, we'd love to see what are some of the things that it's hard for you to say yes to? Happiness, joy, fun, help, yeah, self-care, slowing down, exactly, all of these things. So we find that this is such an important practice, how we say yes, how we say no, how we say maybe, and how we start to feel that within ourselves. That it's not just trying to put something on top. Oh, someone's expecting this of me. How am I going to meet that? I think they want a yes, so that's what I'm going to do. But how can we take a minute, center within ourselves, and then feel for what the right response is? Yeah, these are great. Thank you all. There's a lot about self-care and putting your own needs above the needs of others. Yeah. So here's our move for yes. I'm going to move my screen just a little more. You can see me on the screen. So yes, and like I said, you can do this seated. You might need to move to the edge of your chair, and we'll practice in a minute. But yes, the arms are open, thumbs are back. Dropping weight down into the lower body, shoulders are relaxing down the back. Yes. You can take a minute here and try this on for yourself. Yes. Bringing your arms out. Arms are extended, thumbs are out. Yes. What does that feel like in your body when you say an embodied yes? Grounded and vulnerable. Yeah, anything else you noticed as you came into that position? Openness, relaxed, clear, heart softening. Awesome. Love that. Yeah. Empowered, freedom. Great. Great. A flicker of sadness. Open for what might not be what I expected. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Appreciating all of this. Surprised by openness. So this is the thing, right? Part of what we're trying to train our bodies on is how do we listen below the neck? How do we listen into the soma? Great question, Otto. So, I put my left foot forward because when I'm standing, you can do the same move with both feet parallel. But I guess to me, this, yes, it's like I'm entering in. So if you're seated, you could do the same thing. You could scoot to the edge of the chair and just move yourself forward a little bit. It's like you're coming into the yes. And can you feel your length, your width, your depth, even as you're in the yes? All right. So then again, we're going to move on to no. What is an embodied no? So here's our move for no. No. The hands come out in front of the chest, just at shoulder height. No. Arms are extended, elbows are not locked. No. Still feeling the back body. No. So take a minute, try that on. What are some things that you need to say no to? You can take a minute and think about those. We're going to get some practice in a few minutes, but what are some things that you need some help feeling for, saying your no, saying a centered no? Demands from others, distraction, feeling like I'm left out, procrastination, doing other people's work. Yes, Carrie. Demands from my husband's. No to work that's not my core skill. Yeah. Emotional labor. Yeah. Emotional labor for others. That seems like it's a theme. And, you know, part of what we recognize here is that it's not like we're saying these yeses and these nos and these maybes on our own. We're shaped by the culture that we're in, right? So a lot of us who are socialized as girls and women are taught that we have to say yes. And so saying no can be a really big challenge of like, that we get to say no, that we can have that boundary and still be in belonging, still be in relationship, that we get to stay in our dignity and in connection and in safety. Overriding my boundaries to meet others. Yeah, especially my partner. Yeah, Tucka, I really hear that. Saying no is rocking the boat. Compromising my gender, my identity. Yeah, Vito, thanks for naming that. And so part of what we're really working on here is how do we stay in our dignity, which with each of these responses, yeah? How do we get to be in our full humanity and be able to be in choice and learn from our body, what is a yes, what is a no? And now we're gonna move into this third move, which is a maybe. So maybe looks like this. Palms are down, and it's like you're drawing a boundary. Maybe. You're drawing a little half circle around you. Maybe. Maybe. This is my space. Maybe. Sometimes you can think of maybe as a commit to commit. This might be when your body isn't clear on the answer. So maybe might be, I need some more time to think about this. Can I get back to you next Monday? Right? I need some more time, maybe. So take a minute and feel into yourself, what are some things that you would like to practice saying maybe to? What is something that maybe you need a little more time on that you could commit to later? Challenging presentations, I started a practice of deciding maybe is actually a no. It makes me make more authentic commitments. That's great, Stephanie. Maybe to plans with others, whether to stay in a relationship and keep working on it, caregiving, dating, definitely, calling my ex, social invitations. So we're in a moment, right? As in some parts of the world, there's an opportunity where people are opening back up and are being social again. And people may have had a real time of spending time on their own. And so what then does it look and feel like to really discern, do I want to take on this social state? Do I want to be in this? And I see this question from Karen, how much time should we give to a maybe though, not to get stuck in a freeze state? That's a great question. Often when I'll say a maybe, like to a social invitation, it might be something like, actually, my partner is really good at this. She was like, I only want to do one social thing every weekend. I only want to go out one time a weekend. So when I say, hey, the sculpture park is having a free day, do you want to go? And she said, maybe, let me get back to you tomorrow. Right? Maybe. Here's the time frame at which I can let you know. I offered her the choice. She had a response, which is, I need to think about it and feel into what's right for me. So maybe can be giving yourself some time and space. Yeah, it's honoring others versus honoring self. I might need some more time. Maybe to me usually means I need time to decide how to say no. Yeah, that is completely real. And I think part of what we're looking at here is that consent is different from boundaries. Consent is a deep and complex practice of knowing, what do I want? How do I feel that in my body? Is this moving me towards what I'm longing for? And sometimes we might need a little bit of time to think that, to feel into that, to imagine what it could be like, because there might have been a lot of things in society telling us we didn't get to have that space. We didn't get to say no. We don't get to be in choice. And so how do we make enough space to do that? Yeah. So I want you to put in your head a decision that you need to make. And on a scale of 0 to 10, I don't want you to go for the most intense decision, right? So we're not looking at a 10 of like, I was going to make a joke about going into space, but I actually don't think it's that funny. But like a 10 might be, am I going to move across the country? Am I going to go towards a whole different life? And I want you to think about a decision that's more like a 3. Right? Things that are a 3 might be, what am I going to have for lunch today? Do I want to say yes to that party that I got invited to? Things like that. So I think part of what we want to look at here is, how do you start to discern and feel in your body the answer? So I'm dropping the consent definition once more in the chat for folks who are asking. And I see the question about consent and boundaries, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But what I want to go into now is really for people to practice feeling that embodied choice. So we have those 3 different moves. And again, can you come? We're just going to practice those moves again. Yes. Thumbs are out, arms are open, chest is open. Yes. Notice what it feels like in your soma, in your body. No. Arms extended, elbows not locked. No. And then maybe. I'm creating some space. I'm creating a boundary here. Palms are down, maybe. So let's just practice all of those together. And then I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and you get to decide how to respond on this. Yes. Let's practice yes. Arms open, chest open, eyes open, feeling the back leg or feeling your seat even as your arms extend forward. No. Arms extend forward. No. Maybe palms down, creating a little bit of space. I need some time to decide. Maybe. So take a minute here, center in length, in width, in depth. Think about that question that you're pondering. And I'm asking you that question, and you just choose a response that comes out of your body. Will you? Can you? Whatever that question is, you do the move that comes up from your soma, from your body. And then take a minute, come back to center. Feel the top of your head and the seat under you or the soles of your feet. Feel the edges of the elbows, letting your arms hang. Feel the shirt on your back, the shirt on the front of your shoulders. And let's practice again. No. What do you need to say no to? Yes. Bring your arms out. Maybe. Creating that space. Wild card, you choose a response. Which one do you need the most practice in? I see a bunch of no's. I see some yeses. Great. Extending your arms if you're in that no. Don't keep your hands close, but let your elbows extend. Yeah, and like Carly says, this is a way to taste test it in your body, right? To try on the different responses in response to a question. Do I want to go with my friend and her kids to the park? Right, that might be a lower risk one. Let me feel for what's happening in my body. Yeah, and our conditioned tendencies, those CTs, under pressure, may have us in an automatic response. We may automatically want to say yes. We may automatically move towards. We may be an automatic no or against. I have people like that in my life. Every time I ask them something, they say, that'll never work. My mother's like that. That'll never work. Why would you try that? How do we recognize the automatic responses? That's a great question, Eloa. Yeah, these come from the soma. So these are embodied responses, and we have some other leadership dojos that get deeper into conditioned tendencies. So I'd encourage folks on the Strozzi website, you can go back and watch one of those. But really our conditioned tendencies generally fall in these three buckets of towards, away, and against. And so it's just noticing for yourself, what's my response under pressure? We can have more than one conditioned tendency. We often major in one and minor in others. And there's no shame, there's nothing wrong with these. They kept us in safety and belonging and dignity when we were little, but we might want to make different choices now towards the things that we're longing for.
Dara,
so take a minute. Yeah, Salunas.
I just want to lift up. Jake was asking, can you speak to deciphering the difference between a boundary being crossed or old trauma being triggered that would be good to examine, look at, and work with?
Yeah, Jakey, would you be willing to come off mute and share a little more on this?
And if you can raise your hand, I can find you.
A no is completely an acceptable answer if it doesn't feel right now. Yeah, as we're looking for Jakey. Oh, there you are. Hi.
Oh, hi. Hi, Dara.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. It's Jackie.
Yeah. Jackie, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so I've been wondering about this with regard to a particular relationship in my life that's pretty triggering for me. Kind of trying to decipher and understand, like, is this my own internal sort of no and boundary with regard to the energy that I feel is coming at me? Or is this really a trigger that has to do with my past and history? Because intellectually, I think it does. And the no to the energy is still very strong. And so
Mhm.
I want to honor and respect that. But I also want to look at, oh, wow, this feels triggering. Like, how do I'm trying to decipher and examine those and then figure out what's best to do in the moment. Like maybe it's more than I can handle and it's just better not to take on, or
Yeah.
okay, he just needs to be examined. So
Yeah. And is there a place in your body where you feel that sort of toggle?
yeah, totally. Like really in my abdomen. That's
Mm-hmm.
generally where I feel most of the
Yeah.
swirliness or the stay away. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you up for just bringing a hand there as we're talking and just seeing if there's anything that your body has to share with you in this?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And we can all do this, even if we're not Jackie. Just take a hand and bring it to the belly and be like, oh, what does my body have to tell me right now? Hmm. Yeah. Keep letting the jaw go as you do this. And what do you notice?
I noticed that sort of held sensation, I guess, of a boundary, like is present there. It's actually a boundary, is like a wall of sorts, is kind of present in my sort of abdomen, and the muscles here. They're a little bit.
They're a little tight. Is that what you said?
Oh no, like a boundary, like the wall
Yeah.
muscles.
Yeah. And if you feel into that boundary, that wall, does it have a shape or a color?
It's like a rectangle, like a rectangle that's
Mm-hmm.
almost a square, and the color might be brown.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. It's like a rectangle. Is it a rectangle around you or just in front of you?
Just in front of me, like
Mm-hmm.
like like here.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, keep relaxing the jaw, keep letting yourself feel into that rectangle, letting yourself feel into that boundary. And is there anything that it wants you to know?
I yeah, I mean, I think it wants me to know that I'm here and doing this for you and being here for you to protect you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you say that out loud, what does it feel like in your body, in your soma?
It feels good. It feels like it feels good. Yeah, I kind of feel like the rest of my body can relax because it's there.
Yeah. And is there anything else that you want to share either about this boundary or about being able to relax now that you've shared that? Like what feels possible from here?
Uh, I I think I'm more knows really. Um, and I think, well, without intellectualizing it too much, but I'm learning my no's, and my no's are becoming much more clear, and that's holding space for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I referenced earlier Prentice Hemphill, and they have this quote that I'm going to put in the chat, but I'm also going to say to you, Jackie, because it feels relevant in this moment, which is boundaries are the distance at which I can love myself and love you at the same time.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like from what you're saying that this is teaching you that you have the ability to like stay in your dignity and also say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a newer capacity and behavior, I think.
Mm-hmm. And are the types of no's that you're practicing, are they like to people who you're close to, or are they more out in the world? What would you say those types of no's are that feel like you're working to practice more?
They're actually to people that I'm very close to.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm starting to change and do a lot of this work, I'm realizing that dynamics in relationships that I've had for a long time that were either fine or unnoticed for a long time are no longer okay with me. And that's where I'm practicing, and that's where it looks like the practice is. And so it's in long-standing relationships where I'm finally saying, actually, this type of energy coming at me isn't okay with me, or this dynamic isn't okay with me as I'm growing and changing.
Yes. Yeah. And so that I think is really about drawing that boundary. And I wonder, are you open to doing a practice around this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And other folks can join us in this, but what we're going to practice with is just what Jackie was talking about, of like, I've realized that to take care of myself and my own dignity, I need to have a different type of boundary than maybe I did in the past. So it's almost like if I was coming in and I was asking Jackie for something, my arm would represent a request. If we were in person, I would walk in towards her. And then, Jackie, I have my right arm up. Can you bring your right arm up as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and extend it. And it's almost like we would meet wrist to wrist. And then the move that you're going to make, Jackie, is like this. Yeah. So you're still facing me. We're still, all of our vital organs are towards each other. Yeah. So I would come in with a request. Jackie, I have a request. I come in, and Jackie makes that move and says no.
No.
And it's less going back. It's more, I'm still here. It's like a wide sweep. A wide sweep. No. I'm still in relationship with you. I still care about you. I'm still close to you. So we call this an intimate decline. No.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's all try that again together. Take a breath. Let your shoulders drop. Feel your length, your width, your depth. And then saying that no from here. No.
No.
Mm-hmm. No.
No.
Yeah. So everyone take a minute and practice this intimate decline and be like, what do I need to say no to from someone close to me? Who's someone in my life where there needs to be a boundary so that I can love them and love myself? No.
No.
Mm-hmm. Feeling a lot of peace within the intimate decline. Yeah. Feels like a gentler no and so much easier to say, yeah, this is a different type of no.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's try this once more. And this time, bring a hand to your heart so you can feel that request, like, here's my request coming in. And then make a decline. No. So keep feeling your own soma, your own body underneath the hand on your heart, even as you say no. Once more.
No.
No. Awesome. Yeah. So if we were doing this together, yeah. What it would look like is that the wrists would meet up. And I would be moving that person's arm out of the way. So like a lot of moves in the stream of somatics, this is based on an Aikido move. We're still keeping our organs open. We're still staying in relationship with the person, even as we move them out of the way. I guess if we were to do this, it would be like, yeah. Jackie, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
What are you noticing inside your soma?
I'm noticing actually that my belly feels softer. It feels more relaxed. And there's some tension here in my jaw. There's some tightness or, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what feels possible from the softening in your belly?
I think so. I think being able to maintain that, to be softer and say no, and not like historically, I feel like no's for me have felt aggressive or have felt hard, like I'm hardening. And the idea of no and still staying soft and open, but with a no, that seems like a new possibility.
Yeah. Yeah, new possibility, new choices. Anything you want or need before we shift?
No, I think I'm good. I appreciate that this idea of the intimate no, the intimate and the soft no. I've never practiced that or heard of that as a practice. And so, yeah, I should really appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for being in practice with all of us. And if folks have any appreciations for Jackie, I know there's already some in the chat. Feel free to drop those in. And I think it's so important that, our conditioned tendencies don't go away. Like we work on one area, like how Jackie was talking about the belly softening, then the jaw might tighten up. It's all connected. It's all in a system. So having more moves gives us more choice. So thank you, Jackie, for being in practice with us. And thanks to folks for the questions and the appreciations in the chat. So Lunas, are there any questions in the chat that you want to lift up? Anything for us to address in our last few minutes together?
Not at this time. There's just a lot of deep appreciations for Jackie here. And
yeah.
People resonating with what you were sharing. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. So, one of the things that, I just want to share, because I'm seeing some of this come across in the chat, is that all of these practices are, how do we start to drop in and feel more, and how can we be in more choice? Because one of the things that the systems that hold a lot of power in society, whether it's racism and white supremacy or sexism and the patriarchy, is that they take away some of our choice. They make us feel like we don't have as many options. And while that level of structural power and violence does have a lot of power, we also know that people organizing has a lot of power and can shift things. So like the legislators from Texas, the Democrats who left the state, they had a boundary. We are not going to let these laws pass on our watch. Or like Naomi Osaka, who you might have seen recently at Wimbledon, who had a very clear boundary of, in the emotional state I'm in, I can play tennis, but I can't relate to the media right now. There is a real boundary for me about what I can do. And what does it mean when a Black woman, when a woman of color sets a boundary? Because we are so unused to seeing that in society. And so I think part of what we need to look at here really is, what are the ways in which power and privilege play out in boundaries as well, and around consent. And we've seen over the last couple of years how the movement for Black Lives, how Me Too, how the movement against Asian and Pacific Islander hate has really shown new boundaries of communities that haven't had power organizing and saying, this is not acceptable. When we look at the bodies of Indigenous children that are being discovered at schools throughout Canada, the only question is, those are going to start being discovered in the US as well, and in other countries if we start digging. So how can we build the capacity to turn and face in this moment into some of those hard questions? So I see there are a bunch of questions in the chat, and we have about 3 minutes left. So Salunas, anything you want to lift up here?
Oh, so there's some very deep questions that I don't think that we actually have time, but you did speak to boundaries around difference. And I just want to know that Dara will be teaching a course specifically on this coming up. We are still confirming the dates, and that will be announced soon. But if you want to go deeper in the discussion around boundaries, consent, yes, no, maybes, intimate declines, and acceptance, she also will be leading an in-person course August 26th through the 29th, called Embodied Transformation. And all of those questions that you're asking around gender and race will also be a part of this course. Dara, if you want to speak a little bit about you're teaching this.
Sure. So like Saluna said, I'm teaching an in-person course in August and also in October. The October dates aren't finalized yet, but August is in the chat, and that's going to be in Petaluma, California. So we'll have 4 days to go deeper into all of these practices. And the online course will be starting in September. It's going to be called something like Embodied Coaching with Race at the Center, or Race Conscious Coaching. And really, it's how do we start to look at these factors around power and privilege, around race and class and gender and ability, and look at how we start putting this into the work, how we start actualizing that in our bodies, in our work with other people. Loa, thank you for naming that. Pacific Islanders aren't the same as Asian or Asian American communities, and that is a really important distinction, so thank you. Do we need a consultation link for the course? Yeah, I am really excited also for the online course. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm going to be teaching it with Brooke Stepp, who's a somatic practitioner and coach and therapist based in Seattle. So the in-person course the dates and the link are up. The online course will be coming soon. And if you've signed up for, if you're on Strozzi's list, you'll get information about the online course. So there are going to be a couple of different opportunities to practice. One thing I just want to name in terms of what I'm seeing in the chat is that, you know, one thing that I think is so important in this is that to become embodied, to be able to drop in and to be able to discern this, we need to practice. And we're always practicing something. So whether it's practicing with intimate partners, practicing with your cat. I know I have to say a lot of embodied no's to my cat because she really wants breakfast at 4 in the morning. Whether it's your landlord, whether it's your parents. Right now, my parents are moving and they are leaving the farmhouse that they've lived in for 50 years. And every time I go and visit them, they really want to give me a lot of things. And so I really have to get good at like, I love you, and I'm not taking a china cabinet. That is not something that I can bring with me in my car. I will take these pickup sticks and give them to the child who lives next door to me, right? So how do we start to see this as a practice of like taking a breath? Is this a yes? Is it a no? Is it a maybe? And where's that boundary? Where's the boundary where I can still love myself and love the other person, as Prentice Hemphill says? So really appreciate everyone being here today. We're going to end in just a couple of minutes, and I know folks have to go, but it's been great to be in practice with you.